Hello there, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Robbins Racing TV, and we're here on Sunday for the GT3 Championship. Of course, round 3, things are again hotting up in the championship so far, and I'm sure you can all recognise the course. This is the world famous Spa-Francorchamps circuit, which these 16 lads are going to be taking it round in. I beg your pardon, it's going to be 15. I'm going to be sat in the pit lane. I am, of course, Murphy. I'm going to be a commentator for this evening, whilst Ken is unfortunately indisposed. So, if I can just grab your attention and give you a run through the league standings as they were after round 2. We've got Thorsten Schmidt currently topping the table after a back-to-back win last week, with Jasko VR hot on his trail and just 9 points behind him. Next in line, we've got It's PT, with a bit of a gap between Jasko VR of 28 points, and then NRP and Travis are both tied up on 4th place with 77 points. The regular GT3 driver Dovtinho is only 3 points behind him, with Demobi 1 point behind Dovtinho. Bruce Law showing up in 8th place, tied up with Uni Clark, who won't be featured in today's race, on 48. We do actually have a couple of new drivers joining us for tonight's race. So welcome to these guys with Lightblade and TomTom. TomTom actually making his appearance in the Formula Renaults this morning, which isn't broadcast, but had an amazing showing, featuring in 2nd place, just behind NRP in that drive. So well done to TomTom, and welcome to the Robbins Racing community. Really getting things kicked off with a bang. I see we've got a few people joining us on YouTube at the moment, so welcome guys. Strap yourselves in, this is going to be a bit of a hot one, I'm sure. The track itself doesn't need much introduction. I'm sure it's going to be a personal favourite amongst a lot of the lads here for this evening. I know it's definitely up there in my top 3 courses across the globe, and it's going to be the same for a lot of people watching this. So we're just coming to the end of the practice session now. 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. So these lads will just be getting a few final little feelings of each corner after playing about with the setup over the last 45 minutes. And as we can see, we've got Thorsten Schmidt currently topping out the table, with Dovtinho and Jasko in close proximity behind him. So this is going to be a pretty exciting qualification. For any of you viewers that haven't seen GT3 Championship before, it features with a 15-minute qualifying on just the start of this race. We are, of course, bringing you 2 races this evening, a sprint and a feature race. So 15 minutes quali will set the guys up for the first sprint race, and that sprint race will be 20 minutes with no mandatory pit stops, just out and out drive to the line. And then after that, we're going to have a 40-minute race with a mandatory pit stop, and this is going to be a rolling start with the guys reversed in their grid. Something that you'll see quite regularly in some of our races that are broadcast here, all except the Touring Car Championship, which is on Tuesdays. So, for any of those guys that are tuning in for the first time and you do enjoy sim racing, by all means come and hit us up if you want to be part of a Project Cars 2 PlayStation 4 community. All you have to do is go to www.robbinsracing.co.uk and you'll be greeted by any of our staffing team who'll guide you through the process, and we'll get you involved in these races as soon as possible. A few lads just finishing the lap now. We've got NRP, who's the league coordinator for this particular championship, who's actually made a switch over to the Audi throughout the season. He started off in his favoured McLaren, but decided that the Audi was just too irresistible. His car, of course, for last season. It's featuring 10th at the end of practice, but he has been sorting out this lobby, getting all of the lads involved there, so I'm sure we'll see him climb up those ranks a little bit in the upcoming qualification session. So we jump into the monitor. Let's see who's going to be out there first. It looks as though it is Duftinho, first to get out the pits. Let's go on board with him. You see a nice train of cars there behind. Oh, don't know if it's just my stream, but it looked as though there was a little bit of trouble there. As Duftinho says hello to that inside wall. These guys will just start getting their engines warmed up, getting those tyres warm. You can see at the moment, cold tyres, and on a track like Spa, it's not what you want. So these guys will be taking it easy onto the approach as we see them weaving to try and get some heat into those. Train of 6 cars at the moment, so a few guys just making their final adjustments before they come out on track. See there now, up on approaching Pouillon. Coming up into the campus complex. Still trying to get some heat into those tyres, but we can see there, just starting to get the ball rolling as those tyres go from a deep dark blue on the top right hand side of your screen to a much more reassuring green. And that's where they'll really start to put the hammer down, especially as we start to open it up. Taps flying open up onto this bit as we see Duftinho stepping up the gears. And let's see if he dares to lift. Not even a chance of it. So all guys are now, oh no, we've got 2 guys, sorry, currently sat in the pits with Evan and myself. Apologies with that, I will probably get confused and reference myself in the pit lane quite a few times. But here we go, Duftinho starting out the qualification session. First on his hot lap. And about to get underway. Tell you what, let's go and have a closer look at this. A little bit of understeer there, controlled quite well from our driver Duftinho, whereas we're currently on board. And you can see from his little close encounter with the pit wall, cracked windscreen. Fantastic sound from this Lamborghini, isn't it? Can really appreciate the noise of these GT3 beasts, especially trackside. If we do get a nice good train going out through the start finish, hear the roar of these engines come past. Got a few comments coming in from our viewers, with people looking forward to seeing Jasko and Thorsten work it out. We've got the console on board watching this one, and he's been practicing with these 2 guys earlier on in the week, and he's stating here that Thorsten was flying, so I think Jasko's going to have his work cut out, especially if the practice session's anything to go by. Let's have a look at these lap times then as they start to come in. We're currently set up. Let's have a look here with Travis putting in the fastest time so far. Nicky following in behind. 2 seconds the difference currently between first, second and third place. Uber has now set his time on Bruce Law, which has come out with quite a slow one, so I'm assuming there's plenty of traffic, or he's just trying to get the heat rammed into those tyres. We'll jump out of this view and let's go trackside and watch these guys fly past. And a Moby there, stepping right up with a 2:19.698 to knock Travis off the spot, but I'm pretty sure that in the remaining 14 minutes these guys are going to get a lot more jumbled up than as we see them now. Got all drivers currently out on out on track rather, so Evans made his way onto the track. He was waiting for a little while, so I wonder if he was doing some setup tinkering, perhaps just getting himself a drink, but we'll keep an eye out for these times coming in. Let's go on board with our new driver. We've got TomTom here rocking a Ferrari. Just get up where he is currently on track. You see, it looked like a Porsche there getting very sideways right in the background. So if anyone's wondering what's gone wrong with Cambo's voice, I am of course Murphy. I will be the standing commentator for this evening with Cambo sadly unavailable. I will try and fill those big size 10s that he wears, but of course they are big shoes to fill, especially for an inexperienced man like me. Tino has got experience though, and that's Tinio, who's currently sat on top of the grid at the moment with 9/10 behind, in front of Demobi. Currently on board with Travis, who's about to finish, is he? No improvement from him of this time, but I'm sure he'll be pushing hard to try and make an improvement on the next. Let's go back with our new driver TomTom. In fact, I think, yeah, this must be a hot lap because we did go on board with him before and just see him entering the pits, but we can see him there warming up his tyres. So let's get back in the action. Let's see what Yasko's doing. Yasko currently warming up tyres, so I'm assuming that this is an out lap, but we'll come back to him in about a minute's time and we'll really see him putting the hammer down and challenging these guys at the top. We've got It's PT now. Jumped right up in the Mercedes, and that thing really does make a noise. Train behind him as well, so currently picking up a slipstream from the orange McLaren. I think that might be Travis in the McLaren, but I'm not too sure. Not all familiar with these car liveries, so you will have to bear with me, but we see him there getting a little bit squiffy, and that's going to be the end of this go as he goes in to make some adjustments to his tuning setup. Let's rejoin again with Yasko. Let's see whereabouts he's up to. So those tyres are warm now, so we see him open it up through this really fast section, and I can guarantee we won't be seeing any lifting from him. So just as he lifts, so proven wrong. I do beg your pardon. Just trying to keep an eye on my mini-map here. I've just got a person crossing the line. Who was that? I'm not too sure, but we have got Lion's Foot currently putting in a purple Sector 3. Lion's Foot now flying. I know he's been struggling with his setup during practice, just trying to hone his car, suffering with understeer and oversteer depending on which way he was doing it, but it looks as though he's finally got it hooked up. Well, there we go, Yasko topping the table I was expecting to see that. We're seeing with a 2:18.224. So currently sat about a quarter of a second ahead of the rest. With Duftino currently on an outlap. Demobi also on an outlap. So I think a lot's going to happen in the remaining 9.5 minutes of this qualifying session. Well, let's keep our eyes peeled and see what goes on. Not seeing much of Thorsten Schmidt throughout this qualifying session. Let's see whereabouts he is in the other Porsche. We were just watching the Porsche of Demobi. It looks as though he's had a fight with a wall and lost for looking at the front end of that Porsche of Thorsten Schmidt, but not to worry. Damage is only visual in this championship, so it's not going to matter to his time. I'll just go back to my mini-map. I will try and keep an eye out for any changes in position as we've got somebody just about to cross the line, so let's keep an eye on the pit monitor and see if we get any changes going up as we follow Thorsten Schmidt around the track. Whoever it was hasn't changed, that's for sure. Currently following Thorsten Schmidt as he opens it up through Blanchimont. That Porsche flat out through that, currently in 6th gear. Not even a sniff of a lift. And he gets hard onto the brakes as he comes into the chicane section. Nails that. This is looking like it's going to be a quick one. Let me just go back to this. So, Jasko VR in the meantime currently going in with the fastest sector 2, and Thorsten Schmidt jumps up into 2nd place, and it looks as though that's enough for him for now as he goes in to make some adjustments. But Thorsten Schmidt there starting to challenge Jasko VR, still 6/10 away from pole position though. So those 7.5 minutes left. I can pretty much guarantee that that is not going to be our finishing order. We just had a huge jump up there. It might have been TomTom that managed to just set a lap, and looking at the onboard, it looks as though he has, and he slips into 11th place, knocking Ubar down. Ubar's still out on track though, so he is still giving it some. Let's see whereabouts he is on track. And straight away, look at that, jumping up into 7th place. 3.8 seconds off the lead. But there is a bit of a distance between Ubar and NRP and Uniclark at the moment. We'll see what happens in that progression and the fight for the 6th place. You can see a few different groups starting to form within these qualifying lap times as we see someone in the background there going up a little bit off-road. Evans still yet to settle up. He is out on track though. We'll try and keep an eye out on him, see where he falls in when he does set a time. We've got Thorsten Schmidt back on track, trying to better his time of a 2:17.6 as we see Jasko entering the pit, so now's the time to do it, Thorsten. Currently on board with TomTom, one of our new drivers, like I mentioned before, in the Ferrari with a chain coming up behind him. I don't want to go away from this. Let's see what's going on with the train behind and whether or not any of these guys are going to better the lap time as they set themselves up through Blanchimont. I am running low on power, so please bear with me, chaps. Otherwise, all my sound's about to go. We see TomTom there have a catastrophic failure on the approach into the chicane. Unsure what happened there. And you see Lionsfoot currently getting a warning from the race steward, so I think that one's going to be invalidated. Let's go on board. Lasco and Thorsten currently out on track. Let's see what these guys are doing as we see Thorsten just setting himself up after his outlap. It looks as though this one's going to be a hot one. I'm plugged in again. I apologise for that, ladies and gents. Just about to have my headset die on me, so I wouldn't have had any sound from any of these guys. All drivers out on track, trying to make the most of these remaining 4 minutes. Currently on board with Thorsten though. See him there, just giving a little flash of his lights. Track view and see what's going on the rest of track. So we have got a few guys about to cross the line. Let's see who that is. Travis, as he goes into the pits, it looks as though he's going to go in for some fresh tyres. Wheelpark's actually at the bottom of this, but I'm seeing no improvements as these guys cross the line. Minor improvement there, and it looks as though it was it Duftinio jumping up into 4th place? I think it might have been, yes, as he jumps into the pits. I think that might just be job done from him with 3 minutes remaining. He's going to do well to get himself back out on track and set another lap time. So it's PT now. He's coming up to the chicane section. Let's see if he can make an improvement on this one. Although it does look as though it might be an outlap. It does mean that he is going to have one more shot at the top. With our top 3 currently on outlap, so they're going to try their best to try and get one more lap in, and it looks as though they might well do it based on the previous lap times. Demobi now currently sat in 6th. Who's that behind him? Looks as though it's the Lamborghini of Duftinio. These guys pushing hard. I say pushing hard, it looks as though Duftinio is on his outlap, whereas Demobi's foot to the floor and pushing for a hot one. So we should see a gap start to open up, as we do, between these two drivers. Let's stay on board with Demobi. One of the members of staff here actually runs our hot lap challenge. Got an amazing rig set up, and this guy is smooth as hell when it comes to driving. He can really drive things that put lap times in things that everybody else struggles. So really accomplished driver here. I'm going to expect an improvement for sure against Demobi. Let's go into the cockpit and let's have a look at this lap whilst I follow the boards, and I will try and keep you updated on any changes in our running order. So I'll keep the interface so that you guys can monitor it as well. Look as though that Porsche is struggling to get into 6th. Getting into 6th really late towards the chicane. That might be one of the reasons why we're seeing him a little bit lower on the pecking order than where we'd expect him. Duftinio though, just put in his best lap with a 1:56.9 according to my times. And I think that is going to be his one of the day, unless my lap board's lying to me. We'll try and let you know if we do get any purples out though, as we finish up our session for this GT3 qualifying. let's go back onto trackside and let's have a look at some of the rest of the guys that are still out and setting their laps. We've got Evan on a hot one trying to make his improvements. We'll keep updated with him. Looks as though Ubar should be on one. Yep, there he is. Cameraman a little bit slow to pick that up. He is quite early on into the track. Let's have a look where the rest of the boys are. Yeah, so it looks as though most of the guys currently... We've got a couple of fellas just entering Sector 3. Let's see if we can pick them up. We've got Uniclark, who's the second in this run-in. Let's try and find out who's at the front of it. No, I can't find it anywhere. So let's stay on board with Uniclark, who's going to be the, like I say, the second one to finish this qualifying session. As we see him kick up a little bit of dirt there. Can't tell who's in front of him, but we will have a look at the lap times and see whether or not there's any improvement. There wasn't an improvement, and we do get a minor improvement from Uniclark, but it isn't going to move his position, unfortunately, on that one. Back on board with Ubar now. He's about to just come out the back end of the chicane. Let's see if there's any improvement from him. And not this time, unfortunately. So, who else have we got? Let's have a look at Duftinio. Whereabouts is he? Just coming out the end of the chicane as we see a puff of smoke. Lighting up the wheels, trying to get that power down as quick as possible. Will there be an improvement and challenge for that top three? Unfortunately not for Duftinio. So it looks as though Jasko Thornton and its PT may well be cemented unless we can have a challenge from anybody else. And no, that is the end of the session. So, going into the running order, we've got Jasko VR topping out the table with a 2:17.063. Thorsten Schmidt on the other side of the grid with its PT. Duftinio next in line. Travis with a Ch. And Damobi making up the next pairing. Bruce Law, Uniclark, Ubar, Lightblade, then NRP, who's surprisingly low on that one. Not having a good time out there, unfortunately, for our lead coordinator. TomTom, Traven, then Lionsfoot and Evan make up the order. So gents, will be jumping into the race, giving these drivers a couple of minutes just to get their cars set up with race fuel, and then we'll be underway. So stay tuned, and we'll be with you in a couple of minutes to see how this one pans out. Few verbal handshakes coming off from the drivers now as they get themselves set and ready to go. 35 seconds remaining for them to finish off any final adjustments to the tuning setup. Remember, no mandatory pit stop in this one, so won't expect them to make up any pit strategies apart from to potentially adjust for any damages that they may sustain through the race, as I have just been reminded that damage is enabled on this one. So if we do see any collisions, we may well see the guys coming in for the pits. Here we are, getting set up, ready for Heat 3 of Season 2. As we wait for the lights, on the third, on the green, And they're away. Quite a slow start there, apparently from Jasko. So Thorsten Schmidt takes the lead on this one, with Duftinho positioning himself up on the wide line, ready to try and make it around there and get a run out, although he does just dip off track. So we're currently with Thorsten Schmidt, Jasko, it's PT, and Duftinho. He's managed to keep himself back in place for fourth, not losing too many positions on that one, just setting himself back up to where he started from. Rest of the grid looks to have gotten away okay, as we see Thorsten there getting a little bit wide on there. That may well result in him getting a slowdown on the straight, which is not what you want. He will, of course, try and make that up as we enter the corner approaching. We see these guys trying to settle themselves up, and yep, Jasko coming around on the inside for the next corner, sets himself up nicely. And he takes that lead, as we see Demobi, it looks as though getting a little bit sideways there. And slipping down the grid, currently in 10th place. He won't be happy with that, but I will expect him to make it up. Have no fear. So we see, there we go, Duftinho getting on the grass a little bit. A little bit of a messy start from him, which is uncharacteristic, but I'm sure he'll get it locked in and we'll see some consistently fly out. At least challenging within this pack of four that have already started to separate themselves away. Let's go have a look at the running order behind as these guys set up. On board with Bruce Law now, or following Bruce Law, as he gets taken around the outside. A little bit of a nudge there. Who was it with? It looks as though it was with potentially Evan. I think it is. Yeah, but it looks as though it is Evan as he slips behind him. He's got the inside line on this one, but he isn't going to want to collide. These two guys battling pretty hard. I just hear a few of the guys getting wide, but keeping it within the white lines. So I don't think there is going to be any track penalties issued by the race director on this one. Looking back up the top three runners seem to be cementing themselves, with Thorsten Schmidt currently challenging Jasko. Looks as though he's taken inches away from him by the second, and we see there Evan getting a slowdown, allowing Bruce through with quite a clear run. And yeah, this challenge for the lead. Let's go back to this and have a look at Thorsten. You see the gap between him and Jasko dipping in and out, but it does look as though it was just on the approach up to that final turn. Sorry, it's actually turn one on this. I do beg your pardon because of where the start-finish line is positioned. So it looks as though we've currently got a second between each first, second and third. And Duftinho closely following up in fourth position. Anyway, let's have a look a little bit further down this pack as we see the Lightblade currently challenged by Demobi, and Demobi succeeding in that one. So Demobi slowly making his way up the pack away from that pretty nasty first lap, but Lightblade isn't giving it up without a fight as we see him right back onto the bumper of Demobi. Let's see what can happen between these two as I try and keep an eye on what's going on between first and fourth place in that challenge for the top. Nothing changing in that though. Looks to be about a second or so between those top three guys. Have a gap between those top three guys, should I correct myself with. And Lightblade there getting a little bit messy, so that is going to open up the gap for Demobi, give him a little bit of breathing space. We see Ubar currently chasing behind Lightblade. Let's see if he can make any moves with our new driver TomTom, looking to try and capitalise on any battles that go on and mop up those pieces. Keep an eye on the lap times between these guys, but let's have a look between Bruce and NRP. It looks as though things are hotting up between these. We'll follow on board with Bruce and see if he can make any headway between him and Nicky. I've got Travis with a shirt just in front of them as well. So about 1.5 seconds between 6th and 8th. And then we see, oh dear me, Nicky getting a little bit loose, and that is probably going to shorten that gap and potentially let him through. Can Bruce hold it? He can on the chicane. Excellent driving there from Bruce Law. Very accomplished driver, and he manages to keep his focus, keep his line, and secure that 7th spot. So we see Jasko now currently opening up his gap. Currently 1.8 seconds to second place, and it's PT. Around about the same, about 1.5 seconds between Thorsten Schmidt. So first, second and third look to be pretty cemented in the running order. Nice and calm between them with 15 minutes of the session left to go. And who was there? Looks as though it was Travis, who's gotten a little bit messy. That's going to open up these two drivers. We see him getting defensive with Nicky, but it has opened it up for Bruce Law, who's going to be trying to take himself around the outside. Let's see what he can do through this section. And now he thinks better of it. Backs out as we see Nicky there, holding the inside line, but allowing Bruce Law to pass safely. None of these drivers want a collision. None of these drivers want any damage. So they're all playing it quite safe for this, which is the smartest way to drive. So we see Ubar and TomTom. In fact, we see all sorts of race director warnings flashing up on the pit monitor on the left-hand side of your screen. So there's going to be all sorts of slowdowns, but it is currently looking pretty tight between that pack that we were just following with Travis heading up that pack. Let's go back on board with these as we see Bruce Law right up his trumpet again. Is he going to make a move, or is he no? He's just going to think better of it, play it safe. Let's get behind Nicky and follow this on outside of his car. Get a good view of what's happening between these drivers as we knock this interface off. As we're watching this, the gap now between Jasko and Thorsten Schmidt is pretty much 3 seconds, with its PT 1.5 seconds in third place behind Thorsten Schmidt. So like I said earlier, those guys looking to be pretty solid in the positions. I'm not expecting any changes between them. We've then got Uniclark in fifth, who's got a bit of clear space behind him between what we're currently watching at the moment, and we can see there Uniclark just coming out the back end of the chicane, and Nicky and Bruce Law getting pretty close to each other. Dr. Moby behind what you can currently see, around about 1.3 seconds behind that, but then behind them we've got a really close-knit battle between Lightblade and Ubar seems to be developing, and oh my goodness, Travis with a cheer, absolutely losing it. Such a tough corner. I don't know if that was a lapse in concentration or whether or not he just locked up his tyres, but that now opens it up for NRP and Bruce Law. Bruce Law in front of NRP, who we're currently on board with. As we see NRP there cutting those track limits, that is probably going to result in a slowdown. Like earlier on, try and take that towards the end of this section. Let's get the interface back up. Let's go back trackside and let's have a look what our leaders are currently doing. We can see Thorsten Schmidt's taken a small chunk out of the gap between the leader Jasko VR, but still sitting around about the 3 second mark. Not much to change between them, but let's have a look at TomTom, Ubar and Lightblade. In fact, we've got a whole bunch of cars here jostling for position. Somebody taking out a cone as their way through, but excellent driving for these guys to keep it clean. Can't see any damage on these cars whatsoever, so obviously fair battling all the way through it. Let's do what we did earlier. Let's go into chase mode and get a good view of what these guys are doing. I see a couple of them getting a little bit wide. That's probably going to result in a race director slowdown. Can't see any penalties as of yet, but we can just see breach of track limits. Ooh, a bit of a risky move there from TomTom as he fires it up the inside. Looks as though that's done some damage to Ubar potentially. Has only lost one place and he's regained that back. As we see the two guys almost coming together again. So things are really hotting up, and don't forget, this is currently in a battle for 11th place. This is how hard these guys are pushing it. Every position matters, of course, when it comes into the running order. None of them wanting to give up anything as we go through Blanchimont. And TomTom isn't on the best of lines there. He is going to have to watch himself so he doesn't get too caught up in it as we approach the chicane between these three guys. Currently on board with Lionsfoot, who's sending it up the inside of that first part of the chicane. Just manages to recover through the second half, and that's released him into 11th place. So pretty good driving, smart driving there from Lionsfoot. Great to see with TomTom hot in pursuit. Oh, looks as though, who was that? Got a bit of lairdiness coming in from, I think it's there we go, it's with Evan in the Porsche. We saw him sending it up the inside, and it was a bit of a risky move, but it doesn't look as though he sustained much damage as we watch the train of cars flying up Eau Rouge. And perhaps there is a little bit of damage there against Evan's car as he completely misses the uphill section of Eau Rouge. Let's have a look at what the rest of the guys are doing. In fact, no, let's stick with this gap. I do beg your pardon. This looks a bit too tasty to ignore. As we see Ubar there getting pushed around on the inside. Managing to hold his line, and it looks as though TomTom's going to slip down a position, but perhaps even two, as Traven makes his way up and through. And he does indeed. That pushes TomTom down into 14, and he will be pushing pretty hard against that, I'm sure of it. That's our battle. So it looks as though Nicky's ended up losing a place to Demobi. Demobi, like I said earlier, climbing up those positions slow but sure. He's now chasing down Bruce Law with about a 4-second gap. So 8 minutes remaining. He will do well to get hold of that one, but he's done excellent to get up into 7th place. NRP, 2 seconds behind him, but I'm pretty sure he'll be pushing himself, trying to get his head in check and getting it together. As we see a car there, it looks as though it was Lightblade. Lightblade losing it, and he's now going to be sat at the back of the pack. Has he recovered? He has indeed. Let's jump back into this battle. We're only on board with TomTom in the Ferrari. So we see the rest of the train. This gap now seems to be opening up between these drivers. Apart from Ubar and Linesfoot, this could get pretty tasty. Let's have a look what what the differences in braking is like on the way into the chicane. See if there's much of a difference between them. As we see Ubar getting early onto the brakes, looks as though Linesfoot quite late really onto the brakes, but the gap pretty steady between these two. So you see the difference in carrying momentum through from Ubar, and that little bit of extra speed from Linesfoot. Let's have a look at the guys a little bit further up the order as we go on board with NRP, who's trying to hunt down Demobi. We can see Demobi in the foreground, and Demobi was struggling, it seemed, with 5th gear into 6th. Let's knock our speeder on. Let's see what gear. It's a bit too late. He's already entered the braking zones. Let's see if there's a gap to be made up here between Nicky and Demobi. Yep, it remains about 2 seconds, so that battle is going to continue on for now. Yeah, Nicky there locking up his brakes, and as the rest of the pack is pretty solid, we've got Yasko in first, Thorsten Schmidt in second with its PT, and Duftinho following them. Uniclark 4 seconds away from Duftinho in that 4th spot, with Bruce Law 4 seconds behind him once again, and 4 seconds once again to Demobi. The shortest gap that we've got between 1st and 10th between all of these drivers is 6 seconds between Travis and NRP, who we're currently on board with. Let's have a look at Ubar. Ubar getting a bit tasty with Linesfoot, as Linesfoot just riding the edge of those track limits. I can't see any indication that although perhaps he has been given a track limit penalty. His lap was at least invalidated, but he's still holding on to the position now as Ubar looks as though he crosses over those lines as well. So we'll see whether or not that gap opens up if Ubar does have to lift off. And looking at the current running order, it looks as though Lightblade has retired to the pits. He's currently joining me inside Parc Ferme. He won't be happy with that, but I'm sure he'll be trying to make it up into the feature race. Called in as a bit of a ringer for this one, late to the party as it was, but I'm sure driver of his competency, he'll be back with a bang when it comes into the feature. So we see Thorsten Schmidt still trying to maintain that gap, as it does seem to slip a little bit closer to 5 seconds between first place. Let's go on board. Who should we go on board with? Let's To be honest, the gaps are looking pretty equal, so I think this is as good a time as any to go on board with our leader. And let's do a little bit of a ride along with him. Let's just get him to show us all how it's done. I'll leave the interface on, but I will knock the speedo off just to open up that screen. So currently on board with our race leader, Jasko VR, with Thorsten Schmidt, around about 4.6 seconds behind him. And he has pretty much dominated this race so far with 4.5 minutes left to run. But anything can happen in this. Looking back on last week's race position, and as I mentioned, Thorsten Schmidt getting a back-to-back in both the sprint and the feature race last week. But looking into the standings from last week, once I get this up, you can see that where is he inside? Let's see. Yeah, Jasko VR getting a brace of second places. So that's why that gap between Thorsten Schmidt and Jasko VR is so tight in the championship running order. These drivers definitely equaling each other on particular tracks. It looks as though so far with 3 minutes 30, so potentially 2 laps to go, that Jasko's going to take this one. And that is going to give him a bit of confidence as we enter the feature race. Feature race is, of course, double the race length of this sprint, so we're going to be racing for 40 minutes with a pit stop. That pit stop can make all of the difference when it comes to any mistakes being made or any damage that has been sustained throughout the race. Some drivers usually opting in to go early, some of them saving it until the end, but anything can happen when you have to bring a pit stop into it. So looking at the order, you see Demobi between Bruce Law. He got that gap down to 2 seconds with 2 minutes to go, so it looks as though it is going to take a mistake from Bruce Law for anything to happen. Currently on board with him, let's jump out into trackside, because we could see Uniclark just ahead of him. Uniclark's going to be way out of the distance, but you can see there the gap between him and Demobi. Demobi doing excellent to try and get that gap down. And just behind Demobi, around about 6 seconds to NRP, so we've got quite a large gap forming between these drivers. Uniclark having a solid race, pretty much cemented himself in that 5th spot, as is Duftinho, who managed to find himself a little bit of rhythm by the end of it. In a bit of a messy start, but finding his rhythm, and that 4th place will definitely help him out in his championship running order. Looks as though that battle between Lionsfoot and Ubar is continuing to go in. These two drivers really chomping at each other's bits, trying to get hold of that 10th place, battling all the way down the grid with Traven as well into that running order. And it looks as though, let's go on board here. Oh, we see Ubar getting a little bit messy, gets bounced off, pinballed from the wall. Bounced right in front of Traven, who's now right up his trumpet, and he's going to try and make it happen as we enter Blanchimont as he goes up the inside. Not the best place to be when it comes to track position, so long as the driver's aware that he's there. And we see now Ubar getting all sorts of messy. I wonder if there's a little bit of damage there. So back on as we join up on board with Traven. And we can see that gap already opening out, so he's going to be pushing hard, but 43 seconds remaining of the session to try and capitalise and perhaps make up that place against Lionsfoot. So looking at the battle, Demobi keeping it pretty steady with that 2-second gap between him and Bruce Law. 1st, 2nd and 3rd looks all but done so long as any of these, all the drivers don't make mistakes. The real battle is the one that we're currently watching, which is a battle for 10th place, if you can believe it. And these guys pushing each other hard, with Ubar now joining up the mix. He's got right back up onto Traven, so good driving there as we see him get a little bit wide. So Perhaps it wasn't damage that we saw earlier on that was pushing Ubar around. Perhaps it was just a brief lapse in concentration or fighting with the car. Traveling more than equal to the pressure at the moment though. As the session is finished, let's have a look at our race leader, and we will move down the pack as he's coming through Blanchimont. Not far away from finishing. We'll keep an eye on this running order where my cursor currently is, dotting about this 10th, 11th and 12th position. But currently looks as though Ubar may have lost a bit of that momentum as he slips around about a second behind Traven now. But as it started from around about, I think it was lap 2, our winner for the sprint race is going to be Jasko VR as he crosses the line. That is the race win for him, with Thorsten Schmidt soon bringing up the rear. Around about 5.5 seconds I think that lead was in the end, with It's PT soon to be crossing up, and then Duftinho soon crossing behind him. Let's keep an eye on that 10th, 11th place. It looks as though it's evened out a little bit. In fact, no changes to report of further down the field as Duftinho crosses the line. Soon, there he is, Uniclark crossing across, and Bruce Law coming under pressure from Demobi. I was going to say Lord Almighty, but yeah, unlucky there from Demobi as he made that time right up in the final couple of laps. NRP crosses for 8th position, and then we've got Travis crossing in 9th. Lionsfoot, who did really well to sort of not react to the aggressive driving earlier on in the race. He manages to secure 10th place. Traven in 11th. Ubar managing to secure 12th, with Evan in 13th, and TomTom bringing up the rear in that Ferrari, which is looking a little bit battered on that front right hand side. He did get a little bit messy over some little parts. He finishes up in 14th with Lightblade DNF'd. So that is the race result for our sprint race. We will be coming back again soon with a reverse rolling start to our feature, which will be 40 minutes. We're going to go take a break, give these drivers a little bit of time to cool off, get themselves a drink, and we'll be right back with you shortly. So we see him just slowing down now, allowing the rest of the field to group up. A fantastic image of all of the cars coming up to that final chicane. TomTom can just slow it right down now, allow the rest of these drivers to clear the chicane. You see them all lined up, and we are good to go whenever he's ready. And he is due to cross the line. It looks as though the hammer is down, so the race is on. Let's have a look, see if we have any changes in position. No, it looks as though it's pretty steady. We see Travis moving up the order, and Nicky and Demobi shooting right up into 3rd place. Let's have a look on board with him. Let's jump into the chase whilst we've got a whole lot of action going on here, and it looks as though he's already put in a bit of a gap between this. Let's go to the back of the field and have a look what the rest of the guys are doing. Oppo Rouge currently on board with Travis, and we've got Traven right up on the inside of him, and he's going to have the run on the straight. Let's see where he's going to move over when it comes to the corner. It looks as though he's going to lose a couple of positions there, so potentially a bit of a loss in straight line speed, or damage may have been sustained, because it looks as though he completely misses that apex. Lionsfoot now currently in 3rd place, fending off Demobi, and NRP in 2nd. So these guys making good headway, making good use of the reverse grid, that's for sure. Only got Thorsten Schmidt up the inside of Travis. Travis jumping out wide, moving the track limits, and he's looking a little bit messy here, so he's going to be passed as well by Jasko VR, our previous race winner. And that is Lightblade now passing in, with only Ubar to follow, who's looking up the inside, also getting a little bit messy. So these two guys in the back need to try and get themselves stabilised for the rest of this race. There are going to be 19 laps in this one. And we are only up to lap 2. Of course, the first lap is counted. Let's go on board with our race leader, who's got a 2.2 second lead now to NRP, who's in second place. After a pretty dreadful, I'm sure he won't mind me saying, first race, he's really cementing himself as a bit of a player when it comes to this feature race, as long as he can keep that gap up. Let's move down the order now. Let's have a look where these guys are currently finding themselves. Let's go on board with Evan, who's got Demobi and Lionsfoot and Nicky ahead of him on the screen. In fact, if we jump back to Uniclark, we'll be able to see Evan there, currently being challenged by Bruce Law at the inside. Nice and clean pass that from Bruce. Just uses that alternate line, goes up the inside and takes it cleanly. See Evan trying to get into the slipstream, and we see in the foreground there the rest of the guys heading up Eau Rouge. Let's see if anything gets messy. A little bit squirrely on the way in from Evan, and followed up by Uniclark as well. He seems to mess that one up a little bit, but I can't see any slowdowns as of yet. And TomTom still in the lead with 1.1 seconds now to NRP. So that gap's starting to close, and Demobi around about 1.3 seconds behind NRP. Similar sort of gap then to Lionsfoot in 4th place, and a similar gap once again of around about 2 seconds, to Bruce Law, who's currently sat in 5th. He has got Evan for company. We can currently see Bruce on screen and Uniclark as well. So this battle could be quite interesting. For who's going to challenge that 3rd spot. You see, at the moment, Yasko VR has moved up into 9th, so he's securing himself way up the grid. Bit of a mistake there from Uniclark. He's potentially going to let Traven through. I can hear the scream of his car in the background. Let's have a look. There it is. That Audi rasping away, and he's right up his trumpet trying to take that position, capitalise on that small mistake from Uniclark. We've got It's PT, who finished in 3rd place in the sprint race. He's got he's just been passed, I think, by Yasko, but he's got Lightblade for company at the moment. Let's have a look what that distance is. We can see our previous race winner, Yasko, if we jump on board with It's PT, currently challenging for Traven and Uniclark in that previous one. So on board with him, let's go trackside. It might give us a bit of a better view of all of these guys in the running. So currently following the car of Yasko VR, our previous race winner, who jumps into the pit along with quite a few other drivers. So that's Demobi, Evan, Yasko and It's PT all into the pits. Like I say, making that early pit stop, trying to make the gains a little bit later on in that race. So this is going to be interesting in terms of Thorsten Schmidt, who, if we have a look on him on the map, is just entering the chicane and about to pass through as he's got Duftinho for company. So he's going to pass these 4 drivers currently inside the pit, I think, although potentially not, as one of them is just about to leave, and it is Demobi. So Demobi's got the jump on him. It's whether or not he's going to be able to chase him down. I don't think he is, looking at that gap. So Thorsten Schmidt currently in 10th, yet to pit, with Yasko VR now leaving the pit box. Up front, we've got NRP now challenging TomTom. Let's have a look at that battle. I will keep an eye out on the lap times of Thorsten Schmidt and Yasko VR, as we're expecting them to start making their way up the grid. But NRP is trying to get past TomTom, as we see him weaving around trying to get that line cemented, but thinks better of it. Is he going to go up for the inside on this corner? I think he is, and he is going to make it stick. I'm sure of it. Was all the way around the outside. The outside actually gives you that straight line momentum on the run up to the next corner. So now building up a half-second gap between TomTom, and we see Lionsfoot and I think Bruce Law just, yep, there they are, entering in the background of that picture. So they're having a little battle of their own. Let's jump into the chase view of these 4 cars. Let's run to the back of it. Have a look at Bruce Law and see him as he challenges Lionsfoot up the inside through Blanchimont, which will soon be the outside. Will he have the drive? few comments coming in from our YouTube viewers. We've got J Palm who agrees with me that it does look as though Travis has got damage, and he's noticed the fact that Thorsten Smith's now got a little bit of clean air to try and make up a bit of a gap between him and Yasko VR. Apologies if the stream is jumping around a little bit. It looks as though it was for Bruce Law. As we know, quite a lot of the UK currently suffering with lower downstream speeds and upstream speeds for our broadband connections, as everybody is online. If you are watching for the first time, thank you very much for joining us here at Rubbins Racing. We are, of course, broadcasting our motorsport to you whilst the regular motorsport is off air. If you're a motorsport fan, this is the place to be, and if you're a sim racer yourself on Project Cars 2 and the PlayStation 4, you can join in this community and be part of this action. All you need to do is go to www.rubbinsracing.co.uk and follow the instructions to join our Discord. That'll get you signed up, get you evaluated, get you in with the rest of these guys, and we generally have racing going on 24/7, so no matter where you are in the world, no matter where you're tuning in from, we can supply some racing for you, I'm sure of it. If you are currently watching from somewhere in the world, write to me inside the comments section. I'd love to know where you're watching this and potentially give you a shout out, especially if you're a first time tuner. But let's get stuck back into the action. NRP is now built up a 1.2 second lead to TomTom, but TomTom itself is holding his own on his rookie drive in these GT3s. Definitely maintaining the gap between Lionsfoot, Bruce Law and Uniclark is soon in the back. I do apologise, TomTom, that looks as though it was a bit of commentator's curse. He ends up giving Bruce Law a kick up the backside. That is a little bit naughty, especially as he hasn't waited for him. I'm sure that one will be reviewed by the stewards. Anyway, that's now released Uniclark in. You see TomTom there slowing up for Bruce Law. He must have heard me in the commentary box. Thank you very much for that. That's what we like to see. Allowing that his position back at least, but the on-track position has been taken by Uniclark as Bruce Law continues to try and put the hammer down. Looking at the gaps between them, looks as though we have got Yasko currently sat in 11th with Duftinho ahead of him and Thorsten Smith. These three guys sat in 9th, 10th and 11th. Obviously three quick guys from what we saw in the sprint race. So it's going to be interesting seeing how they can progress up through the grid as this race progresses. We are currently on lap 6. We've got 19 laps, so 13 laps to go, so a whole lot of racing before the race positions are decided, but quite a bit of work to do between these drivers in terms of moving past traffic cleanly. Thorsten Smith still yet to pit, but Duftinho and Yasko have both been in for theirs if I'm not mistaken. So we can see Lightblade at the back of the order currently. Evan around about 2 seconds ahead of him with 6 seconds next up to Travis. I do beg your pardon, we've got two drivers if you haven't noticed with TRA, so I need to keep clicking back to my other screen. We have of course got our other driver Traban currently sat in 6th. And he's just behind this battle, around about 4 seconds from what we can see. Let's have a look. Nicky now building up that gap, around about 3 seconds to Lionsfoot. Lionsfoot though being hunted down by Uniclark. Uniclark just waiting for any sort of mistake, and I'm sure he'll be pouncing right on top of that. You see a bit of action now between our two German drivers in the Porsches. Teammates in the cars, but I can guarantee that Thorsten Smith wants that 8th place so he can get into some clear air and try and progress up this order a little bit further. Demobi, of course, not obliged to give it up. Team orders are not a part of this championship. Each driver racing for themselves. Just our two Bavarian drivers deciding to represent their country and their favourite car inside the Porsches. Let's see how this progresses. Both drivers more than equal to each other. I can guarantee that neither are going to be fooled by any feints. They're just going to be holding their own lines and their own positions, running their own race. So you see Thorsten getting slightly wide there. Don't know whether or not that's going to invalidate his time and perhaps be given a slowdown, but we'll see. Definitely gets the better drive on the way out of the chicane though. Demobi got the power down quick. And he's going to have that crucial line into the next corner on the run up to Eau Rouge. NRP now gaining a 4.4 second lead against Lions Foot, so he's going to be licking his chops in terms of building up that gap to make sure that any pit stops that he needs to complete are going to put him out into clear air, hopefully at the front of this position, as our previous race leader, second and third place, are currently stuck behind traffic. But we do see Thorsten Schmidt there making the move on the outside of Demobi. It is of course going to be the inside for the second phase of this corner, as we see the two drivers come together. Looked to be a racing incident, and both of them seem to get through relatively unscathed. Demobi now holding up the inside, but it's not quite the best approach to this corner, as we see Thorsten Schmidt looks as though he's got that move made. Let's have a look at Demobi and see what he can do, as we've got Jasko bearing down on them as these two drivers battle it out. That gap getting shorter and shorter now between Demobi and Jasko. So I think they're potentially going to be in position as Thorsten Schmidt makes an uncharacteristic exit. He gets a little bit of oversteer on the run down the hill, and that releases Demobi. And now Demobi is going to be hassled by the previous race winner and his championship rival, Jasko VR. So let's stick with this at the moment. Duftinho round about 1 second behind Jasko VR, who we're currently on board with. Let's jump onto the trackside and see if we can get a good view of these four guys. Yep, there we go. We've got Duftinho just in the background all of the time. This is allowing the guys at the front, whilst these battle, to try and build up that extra gap and make their pit stops a little bit easier in terms of track position when they come back out on track. So the longer this goes on, the more it's going to benefit NRP and Uniclark and Lionsfoot, who's managing to hold his own. Bruce Law is challenging though. We can see that gap between Bruce Law and Lionsfoot getting smaller and smaller. Next up, behind Bruce Law, we've got Ubar, quite a distance, around about 10 seconds, so he's got quite a bit of free air. I'm guessing the top four haven't been in for their pit stops yet, but we'll keep an eye out for when these guys do decide to go in. You see the guys flying down the hill up onto the approach to Eau Rouge. All of them getting through clean, except for, it looks as though Demobi getting a little bit wide. Running off the track. Is he going to hold on to position? No, he's got a slowdown penalty there, which is released Thorsten Schmidt. Is it going to release Jasko VR? Don't think it is, as Demobi slots back into his position. Let's go onto the chase of Jasko VR to make sure we don't miss any of this action, as Demobi tries to get that position back. See him right inside this slipstream, having a look around for positions. Whether or not he's jostling for position or just to try and put him off, we'll wait and see. But Thorsten Schmidt equal to it at the moment as he starts to build up a bit of a gap. And that allows Jasko to close in that time difference between Demobi. We jump one step back, we're about to go on board with Duftinho to have a look what the rest of these guys are doing, get us a good view of the action as we see Jasko sniffing around up the inside. Don't think he's going to make it stick this time, but he's definitely having a look, trying to pressure any form of mistake from Demobi. It's not coming off this time. Demobi cool, calm and collected with all of that pressure. He's going to open the taps though with the gruntier Lamborghini on the run through Blanchimont. Doesn't look as though it's going to make it around the outside as Demobi holds his own race position. keeps his track position, and both of them run a little bit wide there. That's probably going to result in a slowdown, but we'll see what happens on the run through the chicane. Slowdowns are probably going to be completed on the exit, but we'll have a look. I still have Duftinho to close in that position. Jasko again, we see him there sniffing around up the inside, thinking better of it this time, falls back in line for the run down to Eau Rouge. Things really hotting up between these four drivers, all desperate for that race position. Currently the front of this pack with Thorsten Schmidt, who's right in the foreground, is 20 seconds behind our race leader NRP. Not sure how long a pit stop's going to be, depending on how much damage the guys have sustained, but if we assume that the entry to the pit is going to be around about 18 to 20 seconds, that's going to make it pretty close. NRP is going to want to try and gain a little bit more of a lead before he comes in for that pit, as we see Duftinho there deciding to drift it round, showboating a little bit, although I'm not sure it was planned, holding it really well, showing what his metal's worth. Locking up the tyres, so he's definitely sort of pushing to try and make a bit of a gain onto Jasko VR, as Jasko VR is getting frustrated in his chase down of Demobi. Let's go back on board with Jasko VR and see what happens. See him using the full width of the track there, getting a couple of wheels onto the grass. It's not going to matter much, he's still maintaining momentum and maintaining that pressure on Demobi. Looks like the Uniclark's managed to get that lead shortened a little bit between NRP. Currently around about 2.5 seconds, so he's shaving off time towards the race leader, opening up that time. Sorry, it does look as though me following these three guys has made me miss Lion's Foot being passed by Bruce Law. Bruce Law now around about 5 seconds away as we see Uniclark enter the pits. Let's see, this will be a good marker to see what sort of position, because he was a couple of seconds away from the race leader. We'll be able to see how long he's in the pits for as we follow Jasko VR and Demobi around the track, and this could give us an idea about where Bruce Law and NRP could be released should they come into the pits. See them all being passed, of course. We don't know what Uniclark has gone into the pits for, whether or not he's gone in for any fuel, tyres or damage repairs, but he is still in there. So obviously that 20-second lead would not be enough as he just starts to exit the pit lane now. Thorsten Schmidt appears to have gained around about 3.5 seconds onto Demobi. Let's see if we can just see him in the foreground. Yes, we can. It looks as though he's actually about to challenge Ubar. Let's go on board here with Thorsten Schmidt. Let's have a look at his challenge for Ubar. Looks as though he's biding his time, just trying to run his own race here, not do anything too wild and cost himself those positions. Making up time in the braking zone though. Really consistent driver, this 31-year-old from Bavaria. Proves himself in pretty much every classification as a smooth, consistent driver, as we see him there making gains on Ubar. I think it's only a matter of time until he decides to make his move, but for now, in fact, there's the move being made for him anyway. So, looking at this now, we've got around about 1.2 seconds between him and Ubar immediately, and then Demobi is around about 2.2 seconds behind Ubar. So Thorsten Schmidt now in a bit of clear air. He'll be really happy with this situation. But let's have a focus on the rest of the field as we fly down. We've got Uniclark, It's PT and Duftinho all within close measure, as we see a mistake there from Jasko VR, our previous race winner. Drops down a few seconds from a mistake. It looks as though we tapped the wall. We just missed it inside the coverage. But Uniclark, Duftinho and It's PT all capitalising on that, so it must have been quite a heavy hit. That may well have made him sustain a bit of damage. And he has already pitted, so I can't see him wanting to go into the pit lane again and lose all of that time. It looks as though he's just going to have to run with whatever damage he's got. Ubar now entering the pits. That's going to release these 3 drivers and potentially Jasko VR as well past him. So it looks as though Ubar is going to be coming out around about 10th or 11th place, depending on how long he has to spend inside the pits. So Thorsten Schmidt now, the next in line. He's got clear air all the way up into Lions Foot, with Lions Foot around about 5.5 to 6 seconds away. Next up, we've got around about 7 seconds to Bruce Law, who's sat in second place, and 4 seconds pretty much on the money to the next in line, which is our race leader, NRP. These 2 guys at the top, and I think Lions Foot as well, still yet to make the pit stops. So this is all going to change a little bit further on, as we see Uniclark there getting very sideways, manages to get it back on track, but he has lost out. Oh, as we see, I think it's Duftinio. Oh, my word. Losing a whole lot of time there, managing to keep in front of TomTom, but that has released Jasko VR. So on board with Uniclark now, as we see him hustling up to the back of Jasko VR. Jasko VR getting a little bit squiffy on the exit of that, but he is making gains. I'm sure he'll be gritting his teeth trying to make that time back up to his closest rival, Thorsten Schmidt, for the championship. Let's have a look at that gap at the moment. Around about 10 seconds at the moment, so quite a bit to make up. But this guy's proven himself week in, week out as being fast in these cars. I'm sure he's going to give it all he's got to try and make it up, as we see a track penalty there for track limits against Jasko VR, so that's not going to help him. But we'll see what happens when it comes to the end of this race. So we've got It's PT and Demobi now, as we see that bent and buckled Mercedes of It's PT trying to make gains on Demobi. Now this Mercedes is rapid in a straight line, so he's definitely making gains through Blanchimont. But we know Demobi, nice and cool, calm and collected on the brakes into the chicane, gets his line spot on. But that Mercedes has got a whole lot of power. Let's see what happens on the drag on the way into turn 1. We've got JR Sim Racing currently asking us who's currently pitted on track at the moment. Our race leaders haven't pitted, JR. We've got NRP, Bruce Law, Lions Foot yet to pit. Thorsten Schmidt is also, I think, yet to pit. Demobi, It's PT and Jasko have pitted. In fact, I beg your pardon, I'm pretty sure that Thorsten Schmidt has already been into the pits. Excuse me on that one. So in terms of our top 10, most of the guys currently pitted except for the top 3. As we see It's PT there making his way past Demobi. Oh my word! Getting a bit too sideways on the exit of that one. Let's have a look. Demobi's managed to get through, as he has the right to do, but it has released Jasko VR into 5th place with some clear air, with 10 seconds left to gain onto Thorsten Schmidt. Like I say, his championship rival, Demobi, won't be happy about that, as it's PT getting a little bit too sideways on the exit of the corner. Doesn't look as though there's much damage to his car. Let's have a look on trackside, see if we can get a good view of it. No, it looks as though damage is minimal to Demobi's car, so hopefully he's going to have minimal impact in terms of the rest of this race. Currently on lap 12, so we've got 7 laps remaining. Bruce Law making big gains on NRP in that last lap. Let's get his timing boards up. You see there, last lap we had Nicky doing a 122, so it looks as though potentially a mistake was made, but Bruce Law sticking in a 220.2. A rapid lap there from Bruce Law as he puts the hammer down, and into the pits he goes. So it looks as though remaining for the mandatory pit stop is NRP and Lions Foot. It looks as though the rest of the field, especially in the top 10, has been into the pits, so they're now clear to go. We see NRP with around about 12 seconds to Lions Foot, and behind him around about 13 seconds to Thorsten Schmidt. So depending on how long this, as we see, three three cars really jostling for position onto that chicane. Demobi coming out best on that, but Dovtinho has got a good run on him with its PT. The cause of Demobi's demise, I suppose, sticking it in at the rear. So let's have a look what's going on at the front. It looks as though Thorsten Schmidt has made his pass on Lion's Foot. So that is now 12 seconds of clear air to be able to get up into the leader. Thorsten Schmidt, I'm pretty sure, has pitted. I'm not hearing any corrections that I haven't, but I don't want to interrupt him. If he hasn't, let's have a look. We've got around about 10 seconds or 11 seconds back behind that, so it isn't going to be enough. But like I say, I'm pretty sure he has already pitted. So the race is on pretty much between Thorsten Schmidt and Jasko VR in both terms of this race and in terms of the championship. Of course, previous race in our sprint, Jasko came out on top with Thorsten Schmidt in second. Is it going to be a reverse in this feature race? We're just going to have to stay tuned and find out. With 6 laps remaining in this, anything can happen. So we see Lion's Foot holding his pace pretty much against the speed of Thorsten Schmidt. He's doing well in this race. He did well in the last one as well. He may have finished 10th, but he did get caught up in a lot of traffic with a lot of bobbing and weaving, having to deal with a lot of defensive traffic in front of him. And I am getting news in from JPAN23 from our YouTube stream that has confirmed Thorsten Schmidt pitted very early on. I think he was in that group that pitted in the 3rd or 4th lap. Might have even been sooner than that. So that confirmed Thorsten Schmidt is in clear air and the track is his to try and capitalise on this gain. Let's go on board with him at the moment. As we see him exit. I think we'll do a ride along for this one. Let me just jump onto our track leaderboard. So Thorsten Schmidt now putting in 220.9, so a quick lap from him. As well as contending with traffic, just shows the calibre of driver here. So that was the quickest lap in the last bunch, but Jasko VR just pipping it to it with a 220.1. So Jasko really putting the hammer down, trying to make that lead as small as possible. Of course, theoretical lead for now. NRP leads this race with 12 seconds, but I'm pretty sure he does still have to come in. Based on previous ones, it's likely to set him back when NRP does come in to round about 5th, potentially 6th position, unless he can really open up that lead. But NRP currently lapping 222.222, all the 2s for NRP on that last lap. So losing about 2 seconds to 2nd and 3rd place at the moment. So it's only a matter of time, I think, until these guys get alongside him and start trying to exchange paint. Back on board with Jasko. We see him there really throwing it in. Jasko can't see inside his car, but I can guarantee his teeth are gritted and he's gripping that steering wheel with white knuckles, trying to make up that gap. Really pushing after that small mistake, put him into the wall, and he did lose quite a few positions and a number of seconds off that. Making up the time now though. So I think we can keep an eye, now that it's 1st, 2nd and 3rd between these boys. Of course, first still yet to pit. We can have a look at how much time this does decrease, but I will try and keep you updated with the previous lap times. Comments coming in from the console. Yes, I think NRP still has to pit. I've not got any correction from him, but I'm pretty sure he's yet to come in. I could well be wrong. I do apologise. I haven't made notes on this one. You're basing yourselves off my memory and it's not well known for its accuracy. However, I'm pretty sure NRP was released quite early on into this race. Had a great start. Managed to get himself right up to the front of the pack and has pretty much battled on from the beginning of this race. So as we move down the running order, we can see Lightblade still not having a very good time in these GT3 cars. Definitely usually pips himself a lot quicker in all of the other ones, but he has had minimal time to prepare for this one. As with TomTom, who's actually showing himself a lot better in this race than he did in the sprint, currently sat in 11th. Let's have a look, see if we've got any close battles to follow on whilst everybody else is in free air. It looks as though it's PT and Dovtinho are still relatively close. Round about 1 second between these two guys. And Travis, I think it is, or is it Traven? Let's have a look. It's Travis with Demobi. Let's have a look at these two guys. Let's jump into the chase view so that we can get a better idea of it. We hear that McLaren. Deep roar of that McLaren as it tries to chase down the Porsche of Demobi. It's not going to happen on this one as they enter Eau Rouge. That's for sure. We do see Demobi though getting a little bit sideways up the hill into Eau Rouge, but then Travis, I beg your pardon, getting a little bit sideways up the hill of Eau Rouge, so kind of blanking each other out, but we do see the straight line speed coming into its own. Remember, we were following Demobi in that sprint race, and it did look as though his sixth gear was hard to reach. So we see, let's jump the speedo on here as we see Travis jump up the gears. We're not going to see him in his fifth gear for a while, but let's just see what he does as he goes a little bit deep but gets the run out through this. Don't expect any moves to be made into this corner. Dangerous place to be overtaken. And what you can do is set yourself up all the way down the hill. You see there Demobi getting safely defensive, covering his tracks, holding his line, and that's his prerogative. He can hold that line as much as he wants to, so long as he isn't changing direction. But nice, clean, defensive driving there from Demobi, keeping Travis at bay at the moment. So we see NRP now entering the pits at lap 15. This is going to release Thorsten Schmidt behind him. Let me jump back into the map. Let's see who else is going to pass. So Thorsten Schmidt about to come past him. There he is. Jasko VR around about 10 seconds, so actually so long as he's got quite a short pit stop, and I think he's now moving inside the pits. Let's just have a look at this. He is moving inside the pits, so I do beg your pardon, Nicky, this looks as though this pit stop strategy has been an absolute blinder. Currently sat in third place, opened up, and there we can see him hopefully being able to secure his position behind Jasko VR. So excellent move there, keeping it consistent at the front of this race for the first 16 laps, and now he's in the shot with a podium with Uniclark 5 seconds behind, so things are looking good from our man from Silverstone, our lead coordinator, NRP. Let's have a look down the running order. We've still got It's PT battling with Duttinho. Duttinho going a little bit wide there. That's potentially going to be a slowdown, but we'll keep an eye out onto it. We'll see whether or not It's PT manages to make gains on the edge. Just having a look up the running order, I'm not sure whether or not, I think it might have been a back marker that was ahead of him, because that certainly doesn't look like Bruce Law's car. So yeah, back marker. Oh, as we see both guys following each other, getting sideways. It's PT coming off worse from that as Duftinho gets released. He manages to control it, get himself back in line, back on track, and pushing on forward. It's PT losing out in that Mercedes. Obviously a little bit harder to control when it does decide to go sideways. Demobi now, it looks as though he's been passed by Travis, so we've missed that pass, but he is going to be hot on the tail of him. It looks as though both guys have got a warning from the race director, so whether or not that is just lap invalidated and they've completed the slowdown, I'm afraid we just don't know, but we'll perhaps keep an eye out on that. NRP currently sitting 3 seconds behind Jasko VR. Jasko VR ran about 11.5 seconds behind Thorsten Schmidt, who's in clear air, running nicely, and all he has to do really is maintain this position for the remaining 3 laps, and the race victory will be his. Synchronized spinning, says Jeff Sharp on the YouTube stream. It was perfect synchronicity. Absolutely beautiful bit of synchronous drifting. Unfortunately, that is not the name of the game in this race, and both drivers will be kicking themselves. Duftinho perhaps a little less so, as he's gained around about 5 seconds from its PT after that mistake. So, looking down the running order, we've got TomTom currently chasing down Uber. I do apologise, we haven't looked at the back markers too much during this race, as we see... who was that? Is that Lionsfoot, I think, making moves on Demobi, nearly making it stick. Not quite this time, but just snuck in from nowhere. do beg your pardon though, back markers were followed quite a bit inside the sprint race, more featuring on the mid-pack and the front runners in this one, just because of that's where the action's been. Let's have a look at Travis and It's PT. Still quite a big gap between them as they go up through Eau Rouge. So let's run back down the order. We've got TomTom and Traven at the moment within a second of each other. TomTom pushing pretty hard in that Ferrari, having a much better race this time out, although his track position doesn't show it. Looking to gain some consistency in his first race out in these GT3s inside the Rubbins racing community. Looking to cement his place as a regular inside this championship. And as I mentioned earlier, did really well inside the Formula Renaults this morning, with a second place finish in again another rookie drive. So welcome to the community, TomTom. Looking good so far, mate. As we go back to the action between Lionsfoot and Demobi, this is really hotting up. Lionsfoot pushing hard against him here, really improving from his practice earlier on, which wasn't on the stream, but was struggling in terms of his setup. It looks as though he's got that dialed right in now. Not seeing any of the hints of oversteer that he was getting. Much cleaner on corner exit. So whatever he's done it right as he chases down Demobi. We obviously know Demobi, quick guy in whatever he races, especially as he's our current touring car champion from last season in season 1, and pretty much annihilates everybody in terms of our Rubbins Racing Hot Lap Challenge week in, week out. You see Lionsfoot now making his way onto what will be the inside, trying to make the move stick, and it looks as though he's got it done. Demobi's going to back off. I do wonder whether or not Demobi's potentially suffering with a little bit of engine damage, or perhaps a little bit of suspension damage from that previous knock with its PT. But Lionsfoot now with 5 seconds between him and I think it's Travis. It is indeed Travis. So a little bit to gain there, but good going there from our man from Swansea. Next up, let's have a look. Where have we got the battles? We've got Bruce Law and Uniclark. Let's look at this as Bruce just reaches the top of Eau Rouge, and we can see him gaining down on Uniclark, but also struggling, it seems, with his 6th gear. Quite slow to shift up. Still accelerating though, so it's not as though he's losing too much. Perhaps he's just set this up so he's running as a 5th speed. For any of the community members inside Rubbins Racing, we know that Bruce is meticulous when it comes to his setups. This guy can really set up a car, so I'm sure there's a reason why he's currently ragging everything that he can out of 5th. He's got around about 1.5 seconds between him and Uniclark, and as we saw in the previous sprint race, he can easily put that down. But we are entering our penultimate lap now. Thorsten Schmidt still with 10.5 seconds to Jasko VR. I think this has just been a product of consistency from our Bavarian driver inside the Porsche. Hasn't put a foot wrong really throughout the entire race, and unfortunately for Jasko VR, that one mistake seems to have cost him. That with the previous battling that Jasko had to go through with Demobi, making a difference, getting held up in a bit of traffic, not blue flag traffic, fair play traffic, and I'm sure Thorsten Schmidt will be buying Demobi a beer next time he sees him for that. Really opening up that position. Let's have a look further down the grid. We've still got Travis and It's PT in close proximity, I think. Maybe not as close as the split time suggested. My pits split times obviously are being a bit slow to respond. Right at the back of the order, we can see Evan has managed to slip back behind Lightblades. Lightblade making up a position. Every position counts, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen. So good form to him for sticking at it. He was around about 30 seconds back at one point, so obviously putting in some quick, consistent laps. Let me have a look. 2:22's last time out. So currently looking at our lap times, it does look as though it is still just our two guys at the front that are putting in the 2:20s. No major changes from anybody else. Let's have a look as we enter the final lap. We'll go on board with our race leader. Looks as though it's going to be race winner. So we'll go trackside for this and knock off the interface. I'm afraid you're going to have to rely on me to provide you your information, but let's utilise the full glory of Project Cars as we watch Thorsten Schmidt put in a flawless victory, it seems, in this GT3 Race 3 feature race. So currently that gap does appear to have gained a little bit. Looking at the gap is around about 13.2 seconds to Jasko VR. So Jasko potentially getting a slowdown. That's all the dead ringers of a slowdown, losing about a second, perhaps a second and a half from previous. As our race leader passes through Blanchimont up towards the chicane, where he will be looking to take that race victory. Bring up the leaderboard so we can have a look to see if anybody changes. But all places looking pretty secure apart from that battle between ItsPT and Travis at the moment. And as he exits the final chicane, a flash of the lights from Thorsten Schmidt, and he takes the race victory quite easily in the end. He'll be really happy with that after missing out on the race victory in the previous race. That's going to make our championship even more interesting. Both drivers in the top two getting a race win each in tonight's sprint and feature. Let's go back to the running order. I do beg your pardon as we go with Jasko, who's now crossed the line. Let's have a look. Got Bruce Law, who's about to cross the line. Next up we've got Duftinho with ItsPT and Travis close behind. No changes between these guys. Next up we've got Lionsfoot, who's just exiting the chicane now. Good race from him. Secured a 9th position, so a 1-place improvement from the previous race. Next up we've got our Dutchman in 10th place. Flash of the lights there from Ubar in the back. And then Demobi, who probably won't be happy with his race position today, but it's still going to help him out in terms of the championship. Next up, made a gain towards the final part of that race with TomTom. And then Traven, Lightblade and Evan make up the final part of our order. So I'll slowly run through it for you guys so that you can view it on screen. But thank you very much for watching tonight. It's been a heck of a race in both the sprint and the feature. With two drivers pretty much dominating the championship from this point on. But all to play for in the final two races. Of course, Rubbins Racing will be live with you again next up on Tuesday for our Rubbins Racing Touring Car Championship. Next up will, of course, be the Thursday Night Lights, the fan favourite Thursday Night Lights, and then the GT5s on our Friday night. But that's been all from me tonight. I've been your host, Murphy, for this particular week. I'll let you know to see whether or not Kembo's back or whether or not you're stuck with me. But for now, stay safe, everyone. Tune in on Tuesday for Rubbins Racing Touring Car, and we'll see you then. Thank you.